Recording in progress. Awesome. Hello. I'm just going to look at the Facebook side of things so I can see chat if anyone is here. Hello and welcome to Monday. I actually felt called to just do a little bit of community sharing for two reasons. Well, two things. One is, if you don't know who I am, I'm Jenn and I wanted to share kind of an energy update for this week because we actually have a really powerful, energetic astrological situation happening next weekend. And I wanted to talk about kind of the energy around this week just to kind of help support you. And also, I wanted to talk a little bit about the energy this week and how it relates to kind of the more collective energy and the things that are happening in the world. So I don't want to talk about like a specific thing or like political things. There are a lot of things that are happening, particularly in US politics. I'm not going to get into it. By that reference, you probably know what I mean. What I wanted to talk about, though, is how we can actually hold space for things that are not okay. So I might actually put this as part 3 in my series about being okay with not being okay. And that was, I did, there's part 1 and 2 further along or down. If you're seeing this on YouTube, there's actually on my YouTube channel, I actually made a playlist for this series. But basically what I wanted to kind of talk about is how can we be okay with what is? Like, how can we actually be okay with this whole experience that is life? Because of course we all know we have our preferred experiences and we have a lot of experiences that we would rather not have, but they happen. You know, it's part of our experience of being in a human body here, right? So what do we do about that? Like, how can we be with that? And how can we be with that in a way that's actually helpful and supportive? So I wanted to talk about those two things. So first, let's kind of talk a little bit about the energies. So if you're unfamiliar with me, I do a lot of intuitive work. So now I'm just going to kind of tap in and do a little bit of collective channeling. So this is your collective message for this week. As I mentioned, depending on where you are, May 15th at 9:14 p.m. is a full lunar eclipse in Scorpio over the South Node. Basically, we have a full moon and it's going to be intense. And what I mean by intense, it's not like fireworks. I mean, full moons can be a bit intense, but each cycle, each lunar cycle has a different kind of flavor. And I wanted to talk a little bit about what you need to kind of actually look at right now, leading up until next weekend, and what are some of the things that might be coming up. And again, with the theme of being okay with maybe what's not okay. Scorpio has a really like powerful pointed lens at really showing us stuff that is real and real deep, and sometimes not always really pretty. And usually it's reflecting in us first. So we often see stuff in the world around us that we hate, that we don't like, that we wish were different, injustices, evil, all of those things, right? And part of the interesting piece is that a lot of the times the things that don't sit well with us, a lot of the evil and like toxic shit in this world, a lot of the times when it really stirs us passionately, when it really calls to us in a deep place, when it really grabs at us, there's usually some kind of resonance that we are actually feeling with that energy. And it doesn't necessarily mean, you know, if something that is unjust, like an injustice makes you angry, that means that you're actually like the perpetrator. Like I'm not going there. But what I am saying is that we all have the capacity for evil doing. We all have the capacity to do harm in others. And even if our intention is to not do that, we as humans, as part of this really complex rainbow experience of humanity, we also have these parts of humanity that are really ugly sometimes, that we don't always like. It's this is a really good example. It's like, when you're first dating someone, and you don't like fart in front of them, like, you're like all polite and you kind of like pretend that like you don't shit. I don't know if this has ever happened to you, but we kind of pretend almost that we tend to often hide kind of parts of our humanity until we kind of build a certain level of trust with those people in our intimate relationships. And then, of course, we let them see the rest of us, even the parts that aren't always pretty. And granted, there are some people, I've heard of those, women of a certain era who, got up before their husbands to do their makeup just so their husband would never see them with that makeup on. Like, yeah, okay, that exists. But in reality, we all kind of do that on an energetic level to some extent, right? We hide parts of ourselves, the more undesirable parts of ourselves, and we present kind of a different front, of how we want to be perceived in the world, right? And so part of what's coming up right now with this particular full moon and lunar cycle and eclipse is Scorpio really rips back. It doesn't just like pull back the veil on that. It actually kind of rips apart the veil and it's like, look, this is all of you in all of your glory. And so it's very uncomfortable because often it can be really confronting. We are, it's that moment where, your new boyfriend hears you fart for the I don't know what I was just, it's just an example, right? But like, it's like, I fart. I go to the bathroom. I make weird bathroom sounds because as humans, this is part of our experience. So even though we want to hide those things, eventually they're going to come out, right? Like eventually your husband or your wife or your partner, whoever it is, they're going to know who you really are, right? And that's not necessarily a bad thing, right? But it does come often really kind of charged. It can come with a lot of shame, and it can really challenge, why am I actually hiding these parts of myself? Why am I kind of telling little white lies to kind of cover up these parts of who I am and the real me, right? So this is all what's coming up right now. This is all what's going to be stirred up. And it's usually highly uncomfortable, and it can be highly charged. And the reason why I said that the theme for this week in particular is slow is because as much as, uncomfortable things can be, they can also be really fertile ground for actually reclaiming our power, reclaiming those parts of ourselves, those parts of humanity, when we can actually own them, when we can actually hold space for them, when we can actually accept that they're part of who we are. I didn't say like parts, we don't have to like them, but when we can actually accept them and we don't have to shame them or wrong them or demonize them, we get to start to develop a different relationship with ourselves. And that difference, that different relationship that we get to start to have with ourselves starts to realign everything in our lives. So that's when we kind of can go through really big healing and growth in ourselves. And that, moving, into the future can have consequences in terms of relating to our relationships. So the relationships that don't align fall away. The relationships that feel more genuine and supportive and authentic, they tend to be more magnetized. So this is the cool thing about these moments, is really their time to do some awesome and deep healing work. And of course, healing work is like kind of, we're here for the lifetime of it, right? So we're here for it. But this is really a time right now where it's kind of like a door or an offering, right? It's like the door is open, and you get to see what's there or in store for you if that's what you want, right? So this is not like this is what you have to do. I'm just saying that right now is a really it's because of its tenderness and its quality and that scorpionic healing energy and that kind of shadowy kind of energy of really revealing stuff that maybe needs revisiting, stuff that we don't necessarily want to look at. It requires us to go a little bit more gently in our lives. So, some practical pieces and messages for you this week are to make sure you take some time out for yourself so that you can actually really be with yourself. That doesn't necessarily mean, I'm not saying go meditate or whatever, but I'm saying like, how do you connect with you? What does that look like for you? Do you even make space for that for you? So even if you don't, that's okay. Maybe just noticing that, oh, I haven't actually made space for ever for myself. But what does that feel like? Just sitting with those kind of ahas, not having to fix them. This is not about healing, is not about fixing and perfecting. I really want to make that clear. This is really about, can you take some time this week to kind of slow down a little bit, rest when you need to rest, nurture yourself when you need to nurture. Maybe if you're feeling a little bit, if you have a tendency to kind of go out there and get floaty, eating some root vegetables, kind of doing some grounding stuff, maybe getting your hands dirty and getting in your garden, or however it is you kind of, maybe it's dance, like however it is you kind of like get into the physical and nurture yourself on a physical level. Now is a really good time to do that, to really, really support whatever wants to come through. And if you are in a place where you are in learning and expansion and really delving into the more deeper aspects and layers, this is a really fruitful time. So take the time, if this is a place, if you are in the space right now of deepening into your own personal journey and spiritual exploration and relationships and all of that stuff, this is a really good time to actually put on the brakes on like learning and self-development and perfectionism. So if you're like a serial learner and you need to, this is a time to actually kind of like slow down a little bit and digest, right? So the slower you go and the less kind of stuff you put on your plate, the less like information you try to get in, the more you can actually just sit with the information that's already in your system. This is kind of a place of discerning, like, okay, this is for me, this is not for me. Oh, this is coming up right now. It's give yourself space. Give yourself physical space, give yourself space in time and energy. Give yourself space this week to really be with yourself, be with all the stuff that's coming up. Resist any urges to try to like fix it or perfect it. This might be a really good time if you're into writing to spend some time with your journal. If you're a very like intuitive, reflective person, I like to play with the tarot and just kind of use your intuitive tools if you have them to kind of like open a conversation with yourself and rest from it too. So this is not like this is like this kind of work right now that we're into is kind of like the long game. This is not about, fixing a relationship this week and then it's you've let go of that pattern. No. This is like deep roots. It could be ancestral healing pieces, but it's like, what are those seeds? What are those kind of deeper patterns that are in your nervous system that are going to be illuminated, that are going to come up for you right now? And looking at those in kind of a new way. It's kind of a whenever we have kind of this like scorpionic kind of energy, it's like a pulling back of our own veil and illusions, and really getting a deep look at who we are and how we are in the world, how we express ourselves in the world. And so we get Two, it's an opportunity to actually listen and see with a little bit more love, with a little bit more spaciousness. So that is this week's message for the collective. And again, really listen to your body. Like personally, I just last week, lots and lots of, I had a very full week. It was amazing. But I am physically like, okay, it's time to recover. So I've been drinking my electrolytes. I've been just nourishing my body. Just going really, really slow. So that, you know, I'm feeling that as well, you know, this kind of like, let's slow down. And again, it's slowing down so that we can actually get the fundamentals that will allow us to really run. You know, it's like building our muscular strength so that we can run the marathon, so that we can go the distance, if that makes sense. Okay, so here's the other piece. I'm kind of listening for like the language that wants to come through around this. Here's the thing. Part of being here on Earth, part of this experience is evil. It is trauma. It is shit, right? I really want to say this because I feel like in the spiritual world, we see evil and trauma as things that one day we'll be able to like absolve and repair, and like we're going to go into this like idealistic like future state of like higher consciousness. Okay. And I'm sorry to be the bearer of good news. That's not really the experience here. This is Earth School. And Earth School is something that is a really incredible, magical journey that we all chose. And it is full. Like, we definitely knew that there would be some shit going down when we came here. We didn't really fully understand it when we decided to come down here. But here we are, right? Here we are. And here's the thing, and this is the thing that I think is really, really important, is we also need to normalize the fact that we are here as a collective, but we are also here as an individual, right? It's kind of like if you are in, you know, a classroom, you have to really just focus on doing your own homework. You know, if you are super worried about all the other students in the room's own personal homework and their own personal struggles, you know, it's like when you have that friend that reaches out to you in math class and is like, hey, I noticed you're really good at your fractions or whatever. Can you give me a hand? It's like, yeah, you know, when we get that call and we feel it, we can reach out and help our fellow humanity, right? However, it is not our job to do their homework for them. And I think this is a really, really, really important lesson in terms of a collective, because there is, and I see it a lot, especially in the world of other healers and in the world of healers and teachers, is to remember that your job is to do you and carry your message for those who are resonating with it. It is not to worry or you know, concern ourselves with trying to fix the whole world. That is such a heavy burden. And so sometimes these messages I see where it's like, oh, like, you know, heal yourself, and then you're healing your whole ancestry, as if you're responsible for your entire ancestral lineage. And I just want to be clear, because it's one thing when you understand that your own healing does have impact, because let's be honest, your healing, my healing, has impact. When we show up as sovereign, whole beings, just the experience of our resonance of being in the world with that energy, being with our own power and being off of the victim triangle and just living that in our own individual collective, that impacts those who it's meant to impact in the collective. It does have an influence. But I want to be clear, because that's not why you're here, is to heal the collective, right? It's a very dangerous and fine line between understanding that here for your own journey. And yes, that has an impact on others. It does. But it is not your primary goal here. It is not your primary mission here to fix society, to fix the world. The world is like this for a reason. And for us to actually think that our job here is to fix it is a little bit, okay, not just a little bit, a lot of it on the egotistical side, right? And I'm speaking to this also from my own personal experience, as someone who went into environmental scientists, who was a park ranger for 10 years, thinking that I was saving the planet, by environmental education and all of like the advocacy and environmental work that I did throughout my teens and 20s, I'm very, very passionate about, and realizing at a certain point, and like, I can tell you it was really heartbreaking work, because when you see, and are in the reality of what it is to be human, right? When you're arguing constantly against that reality of it should be a different way, you set yourself up to really, you set yourself up for a lot of suffering, physical, emotional, mental. And I also realized, when I am suffering in that way, I'm actually not useful to others. The more I actually really nurture and am resourced myself, only then do I have the capacity to be generous with my energy, to be generous with my resources, right? And so I just wanted to be clear, because the reason why that ties into what's happening now is to kind of help us see the big picture, so that we don't fall into kind of the victimization of what's wrong with the world, right? What's wrong with the world is not wrong with the world. That is the world that we chose to experience. And it is both the really incredible and wonderful aspects and the outright evil and horrific and dark aspects, right? It's the whole thing. So part of actually doing, going back to the week 1 message and doing shadow work is really not just about, shadow work isn't about, working with our darkness. It's actually being able to really fully accept our humanity. And in that, in being able to accept the things that we don't like, that we don't fully understand, that we have a hard time relating to, just being able to say, you know what, maybe it's not, it doesn't mean that it's okay, but I can be at peace in myself with all that is. And that is kind of the roots. Like I was, in the nervous system series, when I talk about what is it to be okay with what's not okay, being okay with what's not okay. Because here's the thing is, our experience of life moves us through a lot of experiences that are not okay. However, we are also built physiologically, energetically. We are actually designed to be able to move through those experiences with resilience. We are not damaged goods. Okay, so trauma, horrific things that might have happened to us, that have probably happened. Let's be honest, trauma has happened to almost everyone, different levels, different experiences, different ways. But we have all had to move through in our lives horrific shit. And here's the interesting thing is, we're actually, it doesn't mean that horrific shit should have happened. Oh no. But what it does mean is that even though we can be impacted by it, even though we can be shaped by it, we are not damaged by it. We have and we operate by a deeper and greater intelligence that moves us through our lives. So being okay with not being okay is actually being in relationship to that bigger intelligence. It's being able to have a relationship with that thing that's actually underlying all of our experiences that we've had in our human lives, in our past lives, and all the lives, right? It's the greater thing. In biodynamic, we call it potency. Maybe you call it life force. If you're religious, you might call it God, but it is the thing that we can't put our finger on, but we can all feel it. And we can all feel the resonance of when we are in contact and relationship to that, right? That is the force that has literally shaped our bodies and cells. Life force, chi, prana. When we are in direct relationship with the embodiment of that, that is the thing that lets our nervous system actually just do its thing, because our nervous system was built. It was built for the experiences that we're here for, all of them. And that is the true meaning of what I mean when I say, what is it to be okay with not being okay? This is in being in relationship to that bigger force. It means that we have the space to hold space for all of the experiences that we move through, including the ones that are beyond us, that might be so extreme or challenging or intense that they're literally beyond our human comprehension. There is the animal intelligence, there is the primal intelligence that knows how to move us through all of this experience. So that's what I also wanted to plant. I wanted to root us into that this week as we kind of move through some stuff. And collectively, if you're looking at the news and you're getting triggered by all the shit that's happening in the world and all the injustice, and you're kind of going into that space of feeling either helpless or like you should do something or whatever, all of those things, by the way, the fixing of the world, the wanting to fix the world, the helplessness, all of that is part of the victim triangle. If we want to get off the victim triangle, we actually need to connect and respect our own life force energy so that we're able to respect the things that others are moving through, the experiences that are happening around us collectively and individually. I think we will leave it there for the messages. So anyway, I welcome your comments. I welcome your feedback. I wish you an incredibly interesting and rich week into this lunar eclipse. If you are in North America, I'm currently in Mexico. I will be watching, I'm on Central Time, so I will be watching the eclipse at around 11:14 p.m. my time. If you are on Eastern Time, it will be midnight, so it will actually be midnight Monday, or midnight for 12:14 a.m. on Monday, May 16th. So depending on where you are in the world, and then of course, if you're in Europe and that side of things, it will be Monday, May 16th, is the lunar eclipse. What else did I want to say? Yes. Speaking of slow, I am actually I've been talking a little bit about origins. If you haven't heard me talking about origins, I haven't really kind of fully released all the details about it yet. However, the doors are open, officially open. We will be starting when we have the Holy Trinity, and when we have the first few people. It's going to be origins, for those of you who don't know. I'm actually working right now on my slow build on an information page and a little info video for you all about what origins is all about. But essentially, It is a group container. It's a class. I'm actually going to be teaching you how to do sessions on yourself. If you're interested in doing biodynamic cranial sacral therapy work, going to be working with the biodynamic field in Origin. So it is an incredible starting space for working with your nervous system. It's an incredible starting space for working with just really getting the foundations. I hate to say the word like nervous system reset, because like, honestly, like your nervous system knows how to reset itself. But if you're in a place where you're really kind of needing a space of like deep nurturance, a place that's nourishing, or even, if you hear me kind of talk about this field of like the place that's actually like, how can I access that space that is beyond, the traumas and the experiences and all those things? How can I actually start to develop a relationship with my own potency, with my own creative life force energy? This is an incredible container where basically we're going to be once to twice a month. It's going to be twice a month some months, and once a month some months, because we need time to digest. So that's how the container is going to go. And it's going to be kind of an ongoing month to month group space. Every 3 months, I'll have kind of like an entry and exit portal. So if you're, it's like a 3-month time frame commitment, but you can do 6 months, 9 months, year, as long as you want to be in the space, as long as you're nurtured by the space. And it's going to be held as classes. And I'm going to basically connect to the fields and invite you to come to connect with the field in your own way and explore. So this is a place of nervous system healing and really exploring the range of our nervous system capacity. It's a really place of grounding if you've been exploring, embodiment, and really are looking for a way to kind of gently come into your body and actually really experience your body in a very, very different way. This could be a really juicy place for you. So if you're curious, if you want to hear a little bit more about it, if you're piqued, just send me a message. My inbox is open. Again, I will be posting more about Origins soon, but the container is open. We haven't started yet. So that's the other reason, actually, I wanted to kind of make this an open space. I wanted to make a space that has a heldness and a kind of a sacred and quietness to it. However, I didn't want to have like time pressure, I didn't want to be like, we start on this date and you have to. I didn't want the people coming in to feel that there is like a compression or a hurry kind of energy with it. I really want this. The space itself is spacious, it's open and explorative, but I also want it to be safe and held. So I'm playing, I'm excited. And if you want to know a little bit more about Origins, if you want to come play and come play with your creative life force energy in a very different way, the doors are open. All right, my dears, happy Monday, happy week. If you have any questions, again, you can hit me up in the comments. If you have questions about Origins, or if you would like some support this week through intuitive readings, my calendar is open. All right, my dears. Mwah. Ciao.